So I watched a video the other day about from a photographer that does some landscape photography, and they were going over their sort of workflow regarding how they go through all of their photos after they come back from a shoot, and how they sort through everything to pick out the best ones and which ones to edit, which ones to save, and which ones to toss and whatnot. And I thought that that would be a really good topic for a video for my channel, to go over my workflow in terms of how I select photos from my shoots when I go out and photograph a sporting event, bike race, skateboard event, any of those things. Because generally when I come back from the event, I've got thousands of photos to go through, and obviously I can't upload all of those because a lot of them are just, shot with burst mode, and you just sort of go through them all and select the best one after the fact. And it can be a little bit daunting. I mean, for example, I was out at a cyclocross race a couple weeks ago here in Vancouver, and when you have a camera that can shoot 10 to 12 frames per second or whatever it is, I come home with 2,000, 2,500 pictures, and loading all of those into Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw or whichever you use to do your raw file editing. It's daunting. It can take a bit of time, right? So the trick is to kind of go through them all and select the ones that you want, and the ones that look good may work out as a print or whatnot. And how do you do that? And I'll just sort of go over my workflow. This is not the be-all and end-all of workflows. You can do whatever you want, but this is generally what works for me. And I like to use Adobe Camera Raw for my sports photos. So generally what I do is I will open up a folder. I've selected a project file folder here, and I've put 300 and some odd pictures into this particular folder because I don't want to bring all 2,600 in that I shot of this particular thing, but just to kind of give you an idea as far as what I do. As you can see, there's a lot of images that were part of sequences, whether it was like a panning type thing or whatnot. And obviously I want to sort of choose the best possible one out of those sequences. And depending on the location, somewhere out in the sun, somewhere sort of in the trees, that kind of thing, right? So what I'll generally do is select all of them, open up Photoshop, sort of drag them in, and Camera Raw will open. This particular one was cool. Composition's kind of cool. This guy's nicely in focus. As you can see, I shot 80mm f4. 400th of a frame, ISO 200 on that particular one. So I think I was shooting with my 70 to 300 on this one. Yeah, I think so. That one's okay. I could probably work with that one. Maybe sort of bring up the exposure on that one a little bit. So out of these three, I kind of chose, three of the sequence. Some panning shots here. I wanted to kind of see what I could get through these. That one's cool. That one's cool. Now the difference is, do I want him kind of before the tree, after the tree? Is there one more distracting? What I'm also going to do is any of these, because with panning you just never know. I mean, I shot this at a 50mm 2.5. Generally what I'll probably do in here is I'll probably do a little bit of a crop, right, to kind of center the cyclist, because they're not totally at the center of the picture. Same thing with this one. That one looked pretty good. I kind of like that one. Got a little bit of depth happening here. Some cyclists in the background, which is cool. That one's really cool. I like that one, a little more centered. And again, against the tree, being out of focus and him being in focus, works out pretty good. So there's a few that I and that one was cool. Yeah, that one's kind of cool. You got the guy in the back there kind of chasing. He's pretty well centered. I could probably work with that. That one was pretty good as well. So some of these panning ones. As you can see, I've starred whichever ones that I think I can probably work with. Just because I star them doesn't mean I'm going to edit them. Doesn't mean that's the one that I'm going to use. I'm starting all the ones that have basically just all the raw photos to go through them after the fact, and then whittle that down as well, and then choose the ones that I want to edit after that. But at least here I just kind of quickly go through them, whatever kind of catches my eye and makes me think that I could work with it. I kind of go through and I'll sort of scrub through these to kind of maybe get to maybe this section here. And as you can see, what you're looking for, or what I look for in sports photography, is a good composition. Like obviously this guy is here, he's sort of leading these guys who are chasing, so you want to kind of give some context as to what is going on in the photo. Like this guy's racing obviously, but what's he racing from? He's racing from these guys. He wants to stay ahead of them, so it gives the image context. And I'm even at this one at a nice crop like this would kind of highlight that even more. This guy doesn't really need to be in here, but these three cyclists are important to the photo. At least I think so. So yeah, so I'll kind of go through these. Let's see. That's a good one. Again, he's being chased. This guy's kind of looking at him, staring him down. It's kind of cool. Star that one. This one, yeah, it's not too bad. Again, same thing. I got some guys in the background. I might sort of bump up the shadows in that one, just to kind of bring out some of that. And let's go same thing on this one. This one's a good one because it's a nice kind of trail of riders that are chasing this guy down. The fact that they're kind of out of focus, again, shot a pretty low f-stop on that one to kind of get that separation happening. Just kind of highlight the main cyclist in that. And kind of go through some more. That one's kind of cool. Again, kind of get the three cyclists in there. This one, these ones were not super big on these. I could probably crop that in a little bit better, but bring out the shadows in that one. That one's not bad. I'll sort of scrub through some more here, different sections. Let's see these ones here. These ones I think I shot. I was kind of going for waiting till they kind of got more in frame. And yeah, that one's good again. I can probably do a little bit of a tighter crop on that. But you get this nice line of cyclists sort of all chasing each other. That one's good because he's looking right at the camera. I can bring up the shadows in that to kind of bring out his face a little bit better. Excuse me. Same thing on that one. This guy. Yeah, these ones were good, kind of in a gross way, because I like the fact that, I don't know, I'm going to zoom, I'm going to see if you can see that, but he's just got this drool string coming out of his mouth, and his eyes were just like, yeah, maximum effort. But yeah, so I can probably bring out that one again. When I edit that one, I'll bring that a little bit. It's a little bit gross, but it's kind of cool in terms of sports. I mean, that's what you want to do. You want to give context to your sports photos, right? Whether it's these guys chasing him down, or whether it's this maximum effort that he's putting out, and he's just like, I don't care, I'm drooling, I'm dead, I'm going for it, kind of thing. And that's kind of what you want out of sports photography, I feel, at least. Yeah. Scroll through those. These ones are looking pretty good. Some pans. Yeah, that's not too bad. On there, out of focus, out of focus, out of focus. Not good. This one's not bad. I was leading the rider a little bit too much. I was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna shoot as he's coming by, but I think I was a little bit too quick for it. But it's still not terrible. Not terrible on that one. I could probably work with that. This one's good. You know, I think he's pretty well isolated there again. 50 mil, 1.8 on that. Pretty decent shutter speed on that. That one's not too. Yeah, that one's pretty good. And again, these are all just raw, no edits yet. I'm just kind of going through them and picking ones that I think might be good. This one, this series is okay. This is a nice sort of corner that they all kind of came around and kind of went around. I was shooting mostly video at this corner, but I wanted to shoot a few stills. This guy was kind of out in front of everybody, so kind of wanted to get him nicely isolated again. 1.8, getting a nice separation to the background, kind of isolating the rider. So there's a few in this sequence that I've starred that would probably be okay, and same thing on some of the other cyclists that are doing their thing. That one is good again because you have this nice kind of line of riders. This guy's got some good effort happening, some good context to the photo. Same thing on this, a nice line of riders coming around the corner, kind of showing the viewer that there's this corner here that they're going around. Again, context. And yeah, so it's kind of the gist. I'll kind of go through them all and kind of, that one's not bad. That one's not bad. And these two, kind of like this one because his shoulders show a little bit more effort. This one he's a little bit more upright, a little more relaxed, but this one it looks like he's kind of, getting that power down to his right leg a little bit more to get around that corner. So between the two, I think this one sort of shows a little bit more. Yeah. And let's have a look here. These ones here, there was a sequence in here that I liked. Yeah, this sequence here. So aside from the barriers that they're all kind of running up and jumping over, which is kind of cool. It's a good spot particularly for cyclocross. That's kind of where a lot of spectators are because there's this corner here. They all come down here, and then they come back, and they got to jump off their bikes here and then run up this hill and hop over these barriers here. Anywhere there's barriers in a cyclocross race, you'll find a lot of spectators because some people like to bunny hop them, some people like to jump off their bike and hop over them, but there's usually some good action that kind of happens around the barriers. So. But this next sequence, this one's good because you get the cyclists, you get some spectators, and then you get this woman here who is obviously racing in her category, but she's taking pictures of these guys coming over the barriers. Whether she knows these people or not, I have no idea. But again, it's cool context for the photo. Get the sort of team tents over here and probably crop that in a little bit tighter, but yeah, this kind of shows you a little bit more context. I really like this sequence here. This one's good. Sort of shows good effort on this guy's face. She's taking pictures, got her in the shot there. So when you are out shooting sports stuff, you want to add a little bit more life to the photo rather than just the people. What am I trying to say? The athletes themselves, you want to kind of give a little bit more context to the photos and a little bit more story to them, right? So, these people over here, they're all smiling. Yeah, look at this guy jumping over the barriers. Cool. She's taking action photos. I'm taking action photos. So there's a lot going on in this photo for the viewer to kind of look at and go, yeah, that's kind of a cool photo. So when you're out shooting these kinds of things, try to get shots like these. Again, spectators in the background there all having fun. Lady taking photos of this guy who's obviously just, I want to die. That's usually the look. But yeah, so something like that is kind of, I like these kinds of stuff. When I go out and shoot, I kind of look for, this guy here shooting in the background there and whatnot. So getting some good context to the photos. Or just adding a little bit more life to them. Yeah, so basically that's what I do is I kind of go through them, do a quick kind of 5-star on whatever it is that I want to choose. Then you kind of go down here to star rating, and what it'll do is it'll kind of just get all the ones that you starred, right, all the way to the end. I think I starred quite a few, and these ones go all the way down to here. Yeah, and then these are kind of going back to the beginning here. So no stars on that. I think that was the last one I starred. So yeah, so I'll kind of go to the last one I starred, first one that I starred, highlight them all, and then usually what I'll do is I'll save them. So I'm going to choose a folder, photos, and I usually put a folder called selected, or I usually use the word selected. You can use whatever you want. Click on that, and I keep them all as DNGs because I want to edit these after the fact. Now you could edit them from this point on, but I just find that because I've got a whole ton of here and I've only selected, a handful of them, I want to open up a new camera raw selection with just the ones that I've selected, so I don't get confused after the fact. Click on save. So 76 I picked out of this batch. It'll take a little bit of time to kind of save all those big raw files. I think these ones, 300 ppi, 6192 by 4128, decent sized photos. We'll come back to this. I'll open up the ones that I've selected after it's kind of done its thing. This is just, again, my way of kind of keeping everything organized so that if I ever want to go back and re-edit anything, if I save these into a selected folder, then I know that those are the ones that I like and the ones I've chosen to work on, or that are sort of worthy of being edited and worked on. So again, I could edit them from this point on if I know which ones I've started, but just for my own sanity and being able to go back after the fact, this is the way I like to do it. And I know that if I have a selected folder for each event that I go to, I know those are the best photos that I chose and that I want to keep and edit and save. So once this is done doing its thing, we'll open up the other batch and go from there. Okay, so now that we have all of those selected, I'm going to go up to my selected folder, do the same thing, highlight all, drag them into Photoshop. These are the 76 pictures out of the 300 photos that I had in that one particular batch that I would like to edit. And whittled it down to the 76, and again this is going to be whittled down to even more. So what I'm going to do, and I think I've done a few edits on some of these, so I'm going to kind of go through these ones here, and I know that I've chosen 3 out of this particular batch, and I want to see which ones. I kind of like this third one. Everybody's a little bit more centered to the image, a little bit more separation between this guy and the other guys in terms of the focus. So I want to edit that one. And generally what I do is I will bring out the shadows a bit. First thing I always do is I dehaze, right? Because, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of what I do. I think here on the West Coast we get a lot of moisture in the air, and sometimes it can add a little bit of fogginess to the images. I mean, it's not foggy, but anything to kind of, this particular race was right by the water too, so I don't know if there's any kind of mist or anything in the air, but I always dehaze pretty much every photo that I ever take. So not a lot, usually between 15 and 20, but it's the first thing I do is kind of do that. And I'll bump up the clarity a bit too, just to kind of experiment with that. This particular one, I'm going to do the shadows up a bit. Not too much. I'm going to maybe up the exposure a little bit on that. Maybe like 30, 35-ish. That's not too bad. I'm going to up the vibrance a bit. I usually kind of, no, I don't want to do that. But usually around 10-ish, just to kind of bring out the greens and whatnot. Saturation, maybe like a +5 or so, +4. Highlights, not too bad, but I do want to do I'm going to sharpen it a bit. Bring up the detail a bit. Yeah, not too much. Maybe like that. You know, not too much. Bring up the noise reduction. I shot at ISO 200, so not a lot. Don't need to do that. What I will do is I always do some chromatic aberration removal. And I usually do the purple and the green. Maybe bump that range up a little bit more. Kind of get it off the helmet there. And over here, I thought I saw some. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. And then usually on the tape. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. I might go back and dehaze it a little bit more. There we go. Everything else looks pretty good. I try to keep things as basic as possible, just to kind of make the image pop a little bit more. Right? Just to kind of show you. So that's before and that's after. Again, just to make the green pop a little bit more, the yellow pop a little bit more, some colors. All right. Yeah, there we go. There we are. And let's move on to the next one here. So these ones, the decision is, do I want this one? Do I want that one? Do I want this one? Kind of like that one a little bit better. It's the same thing, just want to kind of dehaze it a bit, up the clarity a bit. Highlights. This particular one, his shoulder's a little bit peaky. He's not super in focus, but I'm not terribly upset with that. Get rid of that. There we go. Bring that down just to kind of make his shoulder a little less peaky. Up the vibrance a bit. Saturation up a bit. Yeah, kind of sharpen it a wee. Whoops, I don't want that one, I want that one. Detail a bit. ISO 100, not a huge deal. Blank on that. Let's get rid of that. I do this chromatic aberration removal like on everything. I have one Sigma lens that it doesn't remove it in camera, which is interesting. Every other lens I do, you can set that in the camera, but I think this particular one you can't. But yeah, so that's okay. I like that. Let's see these ones. I like this one. These two. So same thing. Just gonna dehaze that a bit. The clarity a bit. Vibrance, yeah, just kind of bump that up a little bit. Saturation a bit. Shadows, yeah, bump that. I want to see that moss on the tree a little bit. Highlights, drop that down a bit. Exposure is pretty good. I'm going to crop this so that he's centered to it, so that's pretty good. But yeah, so that's kind of my basic edits. From that point on, generally what I do is once I've kind of gone through them all and edited what I want, I will then select the images that I've done my edits to, and I will then hit the whole export. I will choose an edit folder. These will be my finals. Change that down to JPEG, and I keep everything default size. I don't resize anything at this point. If I resize anything, I use Lightroom for that because it's just a much better batch resizing program, I find. So basically, once I've edited everything and I've got everything in the edit folder, I'll then open up Lightroom, import all those photos, and basically just do an export to whatever size that I want, and I'll usually put a watermark on them as well, just a small little logo in the bottom right corner. But that's pretty much the only thing I use Lightroom for this type of stuff. But yeah, so then once you click save, it'll do its thing. I've only kind of done 3, but you get the gist of sort of what I do, sort of whittling it down from all the raws, down to the selected, down to the edits, and then you end up with basically 3 different folders. You got all your raw stuff, you got your selected stuff, in case you ever want to go back and re-edit anything. You've chosen these ones as the ones that you want to work with, and then you've got your edits, and from the edits you can basically kind of do whatever you want, right? So what I would probably do with these is, so once I click on done here, for any cropping and stuff like that, I usually use Photoshop. So for example, I mean these two, let me bring those in just to kind of do a quick little crop here. Usually keep the same aspect ratio, 2:3. Eyeball it, a little crop. That's much better that he's centered. Same thing on this one. It's not too bad, but he is off center just a wee bit. I don't use like rulers or anything. I just kind of eyeball it. I try to center it as much as I can. So center from here to here, center from there to there. wheel-to-wheel kind of a thing. Maybe bring that down just a wee bit. And there you go. He's nicely centered. And then I'll just save these into the edits. Save, yes. Maximum quality. Something on that. Yes. Yes. Maximum quality. Close those off. Everything that's in the edit folder is basically a finished product, right? So even though I just overwrote those files, I overwrote them because this is what I want as far as my edit goes. So that's the way it works. But yeah, that's kind of cool. There you go. Thanks for watching, you guys. And if you dug this video or any of my other ones, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I usually try to put up a video once every couple of weeks, whether it's stuff like this or whether it's an event that I've covered, going over tips and tutorials, or just putting up videos that I've shot. Make sure you check back and see what else I've got up on my channel. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you again.